What's up, guys? Jason Payne, host of the Sexy Business Status Podcast. I'm here with one of my good friends, Matt Dallas, who does a lot of things, but he is the master marketer of the magazine world. Matt, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dude, so how long have we known each other?
Gosh, 4 years maybe?
4 years.
4 years, something like that.
Something like that. And how did we meet? Do you remember?
I think we met over
Jenny?
Instagram.
Oh, Instagram.
Yeah,
Huh.
I think I DM'd you and then we set up a
Instagram's overrated. Don't do it. It doesn't build relationships or make you any money. It's totally done.
Yeah,
the whole
for
social media
sure.
thing. Yeah. So I wanted to bring on Matt because Matt is very, very well connected, and I wanted to reach those that are listening. Right, most of them small business owners, entrepreneurs wanting to take their business, their family, and their income to the next level. And the question is how, or what do they need to do, or what do they need to do more of? So the success that you've had, first of all, tell the audience kind of what you do and how you make money and kind of where you're going.
Yeah, so we do three things that really support our main mission. So in Gilbert, our goal is to make a positive impact in Gilbert through the communities of Agritopia, Seville, and Val Vista Lakes. And that sounds great, right? Like make an impact, make a difference.
Sure.
But I needed to figure out like how do we actually do that? So we do three things. We connect neighbors in these communities. We introduce businesses to people in the neighborhood, and we give through partnerships with nonprofits. The vehicle that we use to connect with people, kind of our way to start meeting people, is a private neighborhood newsletter in these communities. So we put a newsletter together that is comprised of stories and pictures from people in the community. So we connect directly with people in the neighborhood. They share stuff about their families and kids and pets and that kind of stuff. And then we partner with a lot of local businesses who want to get more exposure in these communities. And we do that through ads and feature articles and private social events.
Awesome. Because I'm sure most business owners like myself, we get hit up a lot for like, hey, sponsor this, sponsor that. Hey,
time.
hop in this magazine or sponsor this ad or sponsor this, this little section or a quarter page or half a page or full page, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And so for the longest time, there's another gal that's no longer with you guys that I've done stuff with. Yeah. And it's really, really worked because it's all about like, it's not who I know, it's who Matt knows that I don't know.
Yeah.
It's that second tier. It's like, okay, cool. I know Matt, but my goal is to know who knows Matt. Right.
Yeah.
And so once I know who knows Matt, that's why social media is so cool because, like, for example, we're going to take a picture after this. I'll collaborate with you that way. So you see my 15,000 followers on Instagram, and then however many thousands of you have, all my people see you and all your people see me.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And so you're literally like, you're not even adding at that point, you're multiplying how many people and how many eyeballs you see simply by just connecting and collaborating with people and creating those relationships, which is huge. So I really want to talk deep into why State 48, we're doing $1 million a month and the power of and the reason why I sponsor in all three of those magazines, by the way, both Stroll, or Agritopia, Val Vista Lakes, and Seville. And the reason why is because, Val Vista Lakes in general is probably one of the older neighborhoods in Gilbert. It's probably 30 plus years old now. Yep. And they all need new roofs or they've been replaced, right? But I'd say less than half have been replaced. And there's how many thousands of homes in there?
There's a lot. Yeah.
Like thousands, plural. There's 4,200 in Power Ranch. I think Val Vista Lakes is bigger than Power Ranch.
It's not big in Val Vista or than Power Ranch, but it's a good size.
Yeah, it's massive. So and so that's why I did that. So pay attention. Like why else would I do that with Agritopia? Same thing. Agritopia's, I think the younger homes are probably in the mid-teens, but some of them are pushing 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? In the early thousands.
Yeah.
So they'll need new roofs, right? And then last but not least is Seville. Yeah. Now there's still empty lots in Seville that are building custom homes and this and that, but in general, they're pushing about 15 plus years, right?
Yeah, 20 actually.
20, yeah. Yeah, because I bought one in Marbella Vineyards across the street, and that was 2000. That was one of the last houses built in there, and that was like 2006. Yeah. So, yeah, it's got to be better than that. So, so that being said is you want to be active in the community, right? You want to be able to give back, and it's all about recognition. I was just speaking at a brokerage lunch for one of the biggest boutique brokerages in Queen Creek, and I was chatting with him, and I'm like, dude, I was like, obscurity is everything. Omnipresence is your goal, right? The number one reason why us small business owners go out of business, the number one reason is obscurity. Yeah. not because you're too expensive, not because your product sucks, not because you're not a nice person, not because you have the grit and the work ethic and the manpower. People just don't know who the crap you are.
Yeah, that's
and it's getting attention. So once you continue, and once you get it, you have to continue getting it, right? And that's why like sponsoring one thing in a magazine one time or for once or 1 or 2 or 3 months. Well, what if I don't see those 3 months, right? But like I've been on radio for going on 3 years, and I had the exact same ad for 3 years, and they know. So literally, I have people that can recite my commercial. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah. Right, and so you hear like all the jingles and the Learner and Rose, way to go. You've heard that thousands and thousands. It's not like there's not 10,000 different jingles. There's one played 10,000 times.
It's committed to memory.
Right, and so why is it so important to get into these magazines, to be able to connect with the community and to connect with the other vendors within the magazine to grow your business?
These are hard to reach neighborhoods. I mean, these are neighborhoods that a lot of businesses want to be in, but not every business really should be in. Mm-hmm. And we are really selective. I'm probably more than a lot of my colleagues, but we're really selective with who we partner with because we work directly with people in these communities. I mean, when I say directly, like we're not working with HOA, like I'm literally like at people's houses, like we're hanging out, we're going to dinner, doing happy hours, dinners, volunteering together. Like we have these relationships with people in the community. And, by us connecting with them, we're able to then, through trust, introduce businesses to them. So when somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, who do you recommend for this or who do you recommend for that? Like I have people, and trust is super important, because
totally.
I mean, they're not going to do business with you. Like there's that saying, like they have to know, like, and trust you.
Oh yeah. Right? I say that at least 10 times a day.
Yeah. And there's a line from familiarity to credibility to trust, right? So first somebody has to be familiar, awareness, attention.
Oh yeah, I know who those guys are.
Yeah,
that's what it stops.
But then the more familiar they are, the more that business is credible. But where you want to be is trustworthy.
Isn't that crazy? Like they might suck at what they do, but if you see them over and over and over and over and over again, you're like, that's a good business. Why? Because I see their trucks, I see their billboards, I see their wraps, I see their magazines, I think like Tommy Mello from A1 Garage Doors, right? No, they're legit, by the way. I'm not trying to say they're not, but like he's freaking everywhere, and they're like, oh yeah, like I would recommend Tommy all the time, and people don't even know who he is, but they see his brand over and over and over again.
But you can't sustain that over time if you don't back it up with good work.
So,
right?
100%.
I mean, you might be able to put something out once, but unless you're backing it up and getting referrals and word of mouth and all that kind of stuff. Because like for what we do, I mean, this, but if you're not familiar, it's one thing to make a connection in the community, but these communities operate really through word of mouth, right? So
totally.
It's about building that brand, building that trust within the community, and then letting the word of mouth do its thing. Because a lot of these people, it's like birds of a feather flock together. So they'll know people in other similar communities and that kind of stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, trust and building relationships is super important.
That's been huge for me. So for example, let's use Agritopia as an example, right? So I have a cousin that's been in there for 15 years. She's like, or maybe longer. She's one of the OGs.
Yeah.
She's been in there forever. Sandy Prince and Todd, and they're awesome. But like, so apart from that, I also work with not all of, but most of, if not all of the realtors in there, the Michelle Mazzolas of the world and those guys. And so what happens when somebody says, I live in Agritopia, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know you're going to use me. Let me tell you why. Yeah. And so what I go back to is I had a 30-minute Skype with Grant Cardone like 6 years ago when I was going to start, when I was going to leave my uncle's business and do something. I thought I was going to start a business, and I didn't. I ended up doing outside sales for a year, then starting State 48 Roofing. But I had that call. I ironically had the call right as I was exiting, and he was literally eating a salad. He's like, "Hey, you got 30 minutes. What's up?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's Grant Cardone. Nothing big, right?" And but behind him was a huge, like the size of this board behind us, like a 5x7, maybe bigger, poster of an octopus. Okay. And the way I approach marketing is, I don't want to just be hit with one of those, what do you call them, tentacles or whatever, right? One of those arms. Like, I want to be like, oh, we're in the magazine. Yeah. Well, guess what? We now sponsor, so Gilbert Christian is in there, right? And we did something for a shirt for like their soccer team or something like that. So now I can say, oh, we also sponsor the school. So now I have the school. And then like, oh, you heard of the magazine? Oh, we're in the magazine. And it's like, oh, now you know which realtor in there sold you your house or you bought your house with. Oh, that one. Oh, cool. I know this one. I know that one. And then it's like, oh, my cousin lives in there. So you have like, once you start doing that, it's like, dude, you're freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
But some people just focus on one thing. Like I only do Instagram or I only do, PPC or SEO. And I'm like, dude, you're missing out on so many other avenues to get attention, like door mailers, right? And it's absolutely insane, the opportunity to be in a magazine, because like I said, it's vetted, right? And it's funny. I just saw this the other day. 55 plus community in Gilbert, and ironically, there's another company called State 48 Painting. Shameless, shout out to them. And he did 5 houses in a row, like back to back to back. Yeah. Case in point of what you just said before. Those other guys probably didn't need their house painted, but because Mrs. Smith was the first one to get it painted, and they're like, well, if it's almost like FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, like. Whether it's roof, whether mostly in the blue collar space, right? Because you can actually see the AC unit being replaced, you can see the house being painted, you can see the pool being built, you can see the roof being done. They're like, wait, if that house's AC units are bad, my AC units are bad. And they're like, did you use this guy? Did you love him? Was he a good price? Was he a good person? Was he blah, blah, blah? And if the answer is yes, 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 it's like, hey, here's a warm, hot lead. It's a hot tamale and you go bam, 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 bam. And so, but that's what happens in the neighborhoods too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, because people want to do business with people that they trust, but nobody wants to be the first, last, or left out, right? So nobody wants to be the first person trying something. So if their friend or neighbor already did it, then they feel comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. They also don't want to be the last. There's that FOMO, and of course they don't want to be left out. But yeah, it's like they see the neighbor, they see the truck, and I've had people. I've actually had a couple people say, "Oh yeah, that guy lives in Agritopia, doesn't he?" Because your truck's in there so often, because you guys are doing so much work in the neighborhood. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, guys. And, I haven't even touched on that part, right? So the whole Grant Cardone analogy, that was a true story, by the way. It was, all these different avenues. Like I had a handyman. I have a painter painting a toy house in my house. Downstairs in my basement, we created like custom little toy house for my kids. It needs to be painted. Right. So the carpenters that came over, that I paid thousands of dollars to build this awesome custom toy house, they show up in a blue Dodge Cummins and some Subaru hatchback thingy. And they're there for 3 days. They do freaking exceptional, phenomenal work.
And nobody knows.
I had people say, what are you doing over there? Yeah. And I say, I'm building a toy house. And that's where it stopped. The conversation literally stopped there. Fast forward. So once you do that, he doesn't do painting. So I needed some drywall work first. So this painter brings in his GC, or a guy that does drywall. So guess what? The dude shows up in a white van, not marked, does about $900 to $1,000 worth of drywall, right? And nothing. But there's just a white van there. We call it the pedo van, right? There's a white van there, and he was there literally yesterday all day, and nothing. And then I'm not going to give him a shout out because he's not in my coaching program, but the painter shows up today, and his guy's crew truck, the tailgate at least was wrapped, and his tailgate was wrapped, and they're there all day today and all day tomorrow. But at least they had the tailgate, right? Fair enough. But I'm like, guys, literally, like those painter signs are like $10. You can get the nice ones that I have, the plastic ones. Those are like $200, and you just need to put in new inserts that go bad like every 6 months or so, and then like. But we hang banners from the rafters. We have A-frame signs. Our trailers that are there are wrapped. Our trucks are wrapped. And I'm like, you're missing out. I call it lost opportunity. Yeah. Like people don't understand that. They don't tangibly see the cash gone. But what if I could put a bubble above your head? I'm like, you could have generated another $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 or $20,000 or $30,000, $50,000 of revenue on that street. In that neighborhood, simply just by putting something outside saying, hey, we're doing work on your neighbor's house. Yeah. Yeah. And people don't freaking do it. They don't think they're like, it's too expensive. I'm like, dude, that's why you're broke and you're going to go out of business, because people don't know who you are.
It's too expensive not to.
Yes.
Right. I mean, yeah. Let me share a quick painting story since you brought up painting.
Anything blue collar, I get excited.
So I've been doing this for 9.5 years, right? So I've had different clients over time, and I have a painter who's been with me for I think like 5 or 6 years at this point.
Okay.
And when I first met him, he's like, hey, I have a 10-year plan, and I want painting happens on about a 10-year cycle. So about every 10 years, every single home in here is going to get painted. He's like, and I know that. I want to be in here over the next 10 years, and I want to earn as much business as I possibly can in 10 years, because in the 11th year, I'm going to start doing the house repeat from the house that was done, whether it's same owner or not. Like, that house is going to need to get painted again.
100%.
And a lot of these people aren't going to move, right?
Right.
And there's small turnover, but not a ton. So he's in there, and he's probably gonna be what I call a lifer, right? Like, more than likely he'll be with me as long as he's running his painting business.
Sure.
And then
Like me.
I had so then I had a painter, and this guy did like 12 months with us. He's like, oh man, he's not advertising anymore. He's like, oh, I just didn't get as much in his first 12 months as possible, as he wanted and everything. But like, you got to have a longer term vision, So my one guy, and this is what happens, like that one guy kind of laughs at some of these other people sometimes, because he's like, I'm here,
Totally.
I'm going to be there consistently. Over, you talked about consistency, right? So being there consistently over time, and building a brand, building that word of mouth in the community. And that guy's winning jobs. Like, he's winning so much business. And it's unfortunate, because I think the other company did good work, but I think they didn't have the vision. I think having a vision is important.
Dude, if you truly understand like marketing, the difference between marketing and advertising, dude, marketing is a long-term game.
Yeah.
It just is. We're gonna throw down on a billboard here in the next 30 days. And it's centrally located in Gilbert on purpose. And it's they're like, you can do this for 11 months or do it for a year. Or you can do it 1 month, or it's like buy 11 months, get a month free. And I'm like, bro, I ain't going nowhere for a year. And I got to save $6,000, or I get a month for free. And I'm like, dude, absolutely, let's go. Like, when you truly understand, like Williamsville High School football, their stadium, they host like all the smaller, like the 2A and the 3A and the 4A, like the smaller division. They host a lot of those playoff games and a lot of the championship games, ironically.
Oh, wow.
The big boys, the 6As and the Opens, go to like ASU and the big stadiums. But the smaller ones go to like the Campo Verdes and the Williamsfields and the Perry, like big stadiums. And I'm like, dude, I was like, in them, it's a 7-year commitment. And I'm like, dude, I was like, I've only been in business for 2. Right? I'm like, is that crazy?
Yeah.
But like,
vision.
when I signed up, but I was like, dude, but when you truly understand, think about it. If you see anything one time, you don't even, right now, there's nothing that you've seen once or twice or 3 or 4 or 5 times that you're like, I've seen it. It's amazing. It's a great product. They're awesome. It doesn't even come to your subconscious mind right now because of the lack of consistency and the lack of exposure from that brand. But we think of like Coca-Cola. We think of Nike. We think of, Oakley. We think pick your poison, right? But they have spent literally billions of dollars on advertising a year.
Yeah.
Is it crazy? So there was a stat that came out, and I forgot how many billions, but it was in the 1 to 3 billions a year just in marketing and advertising spent, right? In advertising. Home Depot, Walmart, Amazon, Costco, and it was one of those, not as, Lowe's. Lowe's was less than $1 billion. I'm like, that's funny. But Home Depot was like 10x the size of Lowe's. Yeah. I was like, so Home Depot spent $2 billion and Lowe's spent less than $1 billion. But Home Depot is doing 10x than what Lowe's is. Dude, business is math.
Yeah.
Like, dumb it down. I talked to a dude just a little bit ago for like 30 minutes. He's in real estate. He's like, dude, I love your stuff and this and that, blah, blah. And he's like, dude, how do you do it? And I'm like, dude, I understand it makes me money. I was like, we generated over $3 million in organic posting from my freaking iPhone last year, or 2 years ago now. We did $3.1 million just from posting on social media, which is freaking free.
Yeah. So
like your shit's expensive. But like, I mean, in perspective, I'm just giving you crap,
no, it is.
right? But like, Facebook and Instagram literally is free, but we're like, we don't think it works. Or we do a magazine, and I know there's other people that that were in your magazine that aren't anymore, and they're like, the magazines are dumb, they don't work, and I'm like, dude, I'm not printing money, but I'm like, dude, like, whenever this dude needs anything, I'm top of mind always.
Yeah.
Always. But I didn't give up. The difference is Alex Hormozy talks about like crazy. It's like, dude, he's like, Andy Elliott talks about how you don't have competition because you'll put yourself out of business before other people will put you out of business. And then Alex Hormozy is like, if you just stay in business long enough to outlast other people, if you just hold on the 3 feet from gold, right? Yeah. You just hold on that little extra piece, those dudes are going to collapse, they're going to go to business, something's going to happen, and then you can come in and take up that market share. But like, we just give up so freaking easy. We don't play that long-term game.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody wants market share, right?
Right.
But it starts, I think, with mind share. Like, you have to be top of mind before somebody ends up working with you. Like, they can't work with you if they're not even aware that you exist. And I think, I think people have a bias towards thinking everybody knows who they are because they knew who they are. And the reality is most people don't know like anything compared to what you do about your industry, about your business, right? So you got to build that mind share. You got to get become top of mind with people. Become, people need to feel a certain way about your brand. So first, like, we talked about this marketing AF thing the other day. It's like, first they need to be aware that you exist and you need to get their attention.
Right.
And then they need to feel a certain way, like how is your brand positioned in their mind, right? And I was thinking about this too. I went to this concert the other day and Taylor Swift was here. I didn't go see Taylor Swift, but she's very popular, right? Very strong brand.
Oh yeah.
I went to see
top 10 in the world.
right. I went to see Billy Joel the other day, and super strong brand still. I mean, he's 74 years old,
I was gonna say
right?
he's almost dead.
Yeah.
Old,
And
oldie.
Stevie next to her, she's like 75. But both of them have very strong brands, right? And when they put tickets on sale, they sell them for a ridiculous amount of money, especially the Taylor Swift show, and they go like this. But they can get that response right away because of how strong their brand is.
Right.
And I think people miss that. Like they want the sales, but they don't want to build the brand, which I don't know. Like that's kind of frustrating. So I'm
Dude,
like, hey, you got to build a brand. You got to have people feel a certain way about you. They have to trust you, and then business happens quickly.
Well, what happens is our ego gets in the way, and that's the reason why. Like I think another huge reason why small business owners crash is because their ego is so big they don't understand how hard it takes to build a brand and build a business, and then they think that they're invincible. They think everybody knows who they are. Yeah. I think everybody knows who State 48 Roofing is in Arizona. Why? Because I post a lot on social media. Like, get the F out of here, man. Like, that's not a thing. But when you dude, I have even asked, like, if you're not in the seminar, small business conference circle, I guess, or sphere, dude, there's a ton of people I talk to on a daily basis. No idea who Ed Milet is. Most people know who Ed Milet is. I know people that have never even heard of Grant Cardone, never even heard of Brad Lee, never even heard of Andy Elliott, and he lives literally 30 minutes down the road, right? Like all these big dudes that have millions, plural, of followers and are worth 8 and 9 figures, worth, not gross, worth 8 and 9 figures. And people literally down the street from me have never, not only like I've heard of them, but I haven't watched their stuff, or I've heard of them, but I haven't read their book. David Goggins, Tim Grover, like you name it, and all these names, and be like, never heard of them. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, how do you, it gives me anxiety. I'm like, what do you mean you don't freaking know who these guys are? But I'm like, dude, like that's literally obscurity. Like that's why you always have to keep promoting your brand and who you are. And I say it all the time. I'm like, you'll never not see me wearing a piece of my article that is I spoke at your thing last, was it last week?
Friday, yeah.
Oh, jeez. Blur. A week ago, I spoke at your event. Right. And I said that. I'm like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And like 90% of the room didn't have anything to show like what you do. Right? You should get a stroll embroidered on the shirt.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. I knew you were going to bust my chops for this. Too.
Yeah, like what? Why doesn't it say stroll? Like where's like put stroll? Hey, like hey, what's? Because it's a conversation starter, if anything, right? Like hey, what does stroll mean? Is it a brand? Is it like Gucci or Louis Vuitton or Chanel or what? What's stroll? Oh no, it's a magazine publishing company that I own. Blah 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 blah. Right?
Yeah.
And so like sexy roof status, like what the crap is that? Or ho ho ho. People won't even say anything. They just laugh now, right? Like dude, it's a conversation starter. But if there's nothing on there, like. I think Under Armour's on here somewhere, right? I should just get a Sharpie and scribble it out, or rip it off. But the point of it is like, dude, we think that everybody knows who we are, and in reality, only the people that know who we are know who we are.
Yeah. Have you ever read the E-Myth?
Yes.
Okay.
Pie babies.
Right. I think what happens
the pie games
is people are like that technician, right? They're so like they're good at painting, right?
Yes.
They miss out on all the other stuff that makes a business actually successful. A lot of that's marketing and advertising obviously is a part of marketing, but they're good at the technical side. It's the E-Myth, if you're not familiar, is the myth that businesses are started by entrepreneurs, and they're usually started generally by technicians or people who are technically good at what they do, right? They're good at making a pizza, so they start a pizza place.
Yeah, the guy that swings the hammer, the guy that paints the wall.
Right.
Yep.
And I think a big thing that if they're trying to close that gap of like starting to being successful is learning all that other stuff, like getting themselves around people like you surrounded yourself with, whether it's, Grant Cardone or Bradley or Andy Elliott or all these people, or like Carlos, and Sal and those guys.
Sure.
That's what I think helps people take that step from just being a one-man operation to actually running a business. And you've talked about that too.
Totally.
Are you, a high-paid employee, or are you a CEO? Like making that shift.
And that's the biggest thing, because most of, especially in the blue collar space, 98% of us grew up swinging the hammer. Or my dad was a roofer, or I've been, one of my buddies, Richard Gurney, who owns a HVAC company. He's been like, dude, I went on my mission, and he went like HVAC school, or just starting to do HVAC stuff. That was 2005. He's doing like 18 years, right? One of the best dudes at HVAC I've ever met in my life. Nobody knows who he is.
Yeah.
But for now, right? And some people will stay stuck in that. They're like, I do really good work. I work 18 hours a day. I hear it all the time from blue collar guys. I work so hard. I do this and this and this and this. And I'm like, dude, but like my phone's not ringing. But I'm like, dude, it's not ringing because you're not promoting yourself. You're stuck in an attic swapping out a air handler, or you're up on a roof swinging a hammer. You're not going to attract more clients that way. You can. It's just going to take you forever. Yeah. And by the time you actually try and get that momentum, business is all about momentum. When you lose momentum, like your business stops. Like cash flow. When your cash flow momentum stops, cash flow stops. Cash flow stops, you freaking close your doors. That's why there's no off button, and there's never like, oh, well, I'm going to slow down. It's the winter time. It's Christmas season. Dude, I'm sorry. I still have a $100,000 payroll due today. $100,000 came out of my account today. Do I get to like take off the next 3 weeks and like, oh, we'll start back up first week of January, guys? Bro, like I have families to feed. I have rent. I have 87 rent checks to cut. I have 87 car payments, assuming they all have car payment, right? 87 car payments every single month to pay. And so when you have that mindset, like you don't, I love it, like a high paid employee versus a CEO. Like, do you truly own a business, or are you just a high paying job? Like all these influencers that get paid from like Instagram to post this and post that. I'm like, dude, that is a high paying job. Like it might pay you very, very well. It might pay you even millions of dollars, but it's one, you can't sell it. Right? If you're an influencer, what do you sell? You can't sell yourself. Right? It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to sell my brand. It's like, but you leave. Right? The second Taylor Swift, apart from her apparel, right, or her songs, but I'm saying her doing concerts, for example. So perfect, the whole octopus analogy again, right? So Taylor Swift doesn't sell any albums on Apple Music. Let's say she doesn't. Right? And she doesn't sell any Swiftie shirts or whatever. She only does concerts. The day she stops going to concerts, stops touring and stops going to concert, her revenue goes to zero. Yeah. Right? But what happens, the Stevie Nicks and those guys that go forever, is those dudes, they sell something that is tangible that they can sell over and over and over again, like their songs. And that's why they're still relevant 30, 40 years later. Why? Because they still have those songs, and they still have the apparel, and they still have something other. But once Stevie Nicks dies and goes away, the cool part is whoever owns that or owns, their business, they're still going to be getting a check even when they're gone.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think we kind of touched on that the other day too, is looking for ways to build recurring revenue, in your business, right?
100%.
And opportunities to serve in other ways besides that main product or service that you start with is, in every business a little bit different, but I don't think enough people think about that. Like, how can they support this in other ways, in other channels? Because certain aspects of the business kind of ebb and flow, like those can support it,
Right. So let me ask you this as we wrap up here. So I want you to be doing more on social media, by the way. You're doing good, but you can be doing great.
Okay.
Right? I always give some sort of criticism to everybody that sits in that chair, so don't feel bad. But like the momentum that you have gotten, you've taken on more magazines. You just started with one, right?
Yeah.
You started with Velvet Lakes first?
I started Velvet Lakes.
And then you took over Agritopia?
I started Agritopia in 17, and then I acquired Seville about a year ago. Right? And so as you continue to do that, like, obviously there's a lot of obstacles. We can go on for hours of the obstacles they've had to overcome. But what would you leave with our audience on how to continue to grow and continue to scale? You didn't just settle with Velvet Lakes. Right.
You could have. Maybe you couldn't have. Maybe you're going bankrupt. I don't know. But like, some people will only get those one or two and then stop. They won't be like, oh, taking on Seville, it's more work, it's harder, it's this, it's that. Well, it's a long-term game. What people that want to give up, what advice would you give them to go from like your 1 to 2 to 3 magazine? What advice would you give them?
Well, I mean, I think this might apply to a lot of businesses is different ways to grow, right? So like I could have, one way to grow is to build one publication up to be more, right? Or to add other locations, right? And in our case, we've added other locations. And now that we have a really solid foundation and a great team, which I think is the key, now we can grow those. Okay. So I think sometimes people almost bite off more than they can chew, right? And I've seen that, sometimes, but I think it all comes down to the right team. And
how many team members do you have?
We have 5.
You have 5.
Yeah, I have 5.
How scary was hiring that first one?
Yeah, I mean, it's scary sometimes. Like I have mad respect for you for what you have built and the payroll and the team and all that kind of stuff. But for me, obviously, I'm way smaller, a little operation here with 5 people, but and they're great team. None of this would happen without them.
Sure.
But it was really making that shift, and we talked about this the other day too. Is once I kind of figured out what our core values are and how we need to be operating,
right?
Hiring against those, and that's been a great tool for for us to build the right team, because it can be scary hiring that first person, but I think it's necessary in order to get yourself out from just that full. Because initially I was full owner operator of the whole thing. And,
that was gonna say, could you have all 3 working by yourself?
Yeah, no, not
yeah,
right. It's impossible.
Yeah, something was like oh, I could do that. I'm like, yeah, but you have you're married and have kiddos.
Yeah.
Like you would not be married and you would never have a family life. Like you would literally just be working all day 24/7 and you'd be burnt out.
Yeah.
So that's the power of hiring. I literally one of my buddies, Jason Jarvis, was texting me yesterday, and he's like, "Hey, give me like 4 or 5 nuggets. Like, how'd you do?" Because I told him we cleared $12 million in revenue yesterday, and we still got 3 weeks left before the end of the year. And I said, "Thank you. It's insane. We did 10 last year, right?" And he said, "So what'd you do that to?" And I put like 5 or 6 things on there, but the first one I said in all caps was hire and delegate.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Like you if you want to have a sustainable business, you want to, and that's worth selling, by the way.
Right.
Right now, I swear on my life, remember this episode in like 10 years when all these baby boomers are dying or retiring or both, and all these businesses, especially the blue collar ones like the plumbing and the roofing and the solar and the electrical and all these guys that are literally just they've been doing it for 30, 40 years, and they're either retiring or they're passing away. And 90% of them, in my opinion, 90% of them will literally just close their doors.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Close their doors or just sell their assets, which is like they're building maybe a couple trucks and their cell phone, and you're talking like less than $250,000.
Yeah,
I'm being dead serious.
Because they didn't build their business to sell it.
Yes, because if and we call it the Britney effect, right? But like if you remember I did the Britney effect at your thing.
Everything, right?
Yeah, like if in order to build a business worth selling, you have to hire and delegate to where if you were to pull yourself out and put somebody else in, it would not skip a beat.
Yeah.
Like right now, if I were to leave and I were to move to a different state or I were to die, we would still do $1 million next month. Yeah, we would. Awesome. And Heidi had to run it, and Dory and CP3 and Diego had to go do the thing. You know what I mean? Like true story. Right now, my company in less than 4 years is worth more than my uncle's and my dad's combined. That's not an ego stroke. That is just the power of why. Because when somebody wants to acquire you, pay attention to this. I don't care if you do it in the first 2 years and you just buy and you just start one and sell it. It's a way to make a ton of cash, by the way. You can do that, but like right now, when you truly understand that when you build systems and processes and put people in to run those processes and run those systems, and it's not you as the business owner, that is where your it's called a multiple. Your EBITDA for the acquisition of your business goes from like 2 or 3 or 4x to like 8 or 9 or 10x. I was literally told right now that mine's like a 4, and mine could be an 8 in 24 months if I were to implement like 3 or 4 things. Yeah. So instead of getting like $2 million, like, hey, here's a $2 million carrot for your business, I could get offered like 15 million.
Do you think people just don't build those system processes because they're too busy, or like? Because that's really what it is, right? I mean, you have to build the right system, the right processes. And then for me, it was asking myself, okay, if I poofed, like if I wasn't here tomorrow, what would happen, right? And could they run it? And I started doing this about 4 years ago, and I put everything in place. So like if I disappeared tomorrow, somebody could still run the business, and I don't think we would skip a beat. Like somebody come in,
or would somebody cut your wife? Somebody would cut your wife a check and be like, "Hey, here. Apart from life insurance, here's a check for for your 3 magazines." Yeah. Right. And that's what it comes down to. Like you have to build something. That's why I call it sexy business status. Why? It has to be something that's appealing, right? If your company is dog shit and it's ran like dog shit, it's going to be worth dog shit. And some people you might get mad, you might get butthurt, you might get offended. One, you already know I don't care. Number one. Number two, just truly understand that like that's an opportunity for you to build something, like build a legacy, right? Do you want to leave a shit show to your kids? That's why most people don't want these. I was talking to somebody earlier today, ironically, about this, and they were talking about how like all these boomers and whatnot, they don't want to want to take on dad's plumbing business. They're like, why? Well, dude, it's literally a crap fest. It's a yellow notepad. There's no processes. There's no CRM. There's no marketing. There's no consistent cash flow. There's no projections. There's 2 employees and you're related to half of them, or 4 employees. And you have 1 van, but it has 300,000 miles and 2-tone paint and it's been totaled 4 times. It's like, you want to inherit that? That's why millennials don't want to inherit that shit, because that's literally what it is. That's like it's not even an asset at that point. It's a liability. Yeah. It's like you just got that shit thrown on you. It's like, thanks, Dad. Like, dude, like, so think about it. Not even just selling it to a private equity firm or being acquired by somebody, whether it's a Fortune 500 or whatever. Like, truly see that, like, if you were to give this and build this for your family and give it to your kids, would they want to acquire your business? Or would they be like, I'm not touching that thing with a ton of bricks? True story. My dad and I had this conversation before I started State 48 Roofing. He said, hey, what do you think about taking over? He owns a flooring business. He said, what do you think about taking this and running this and doing that? I said, no way. No offense. No way. Why? Because you are the Britney effect. He still does everything. He does all the sales, he's not a bad person. He's a freaking amazing human. But that's not my jam, right? But like, I don't want to be, because if not, I have to start all over. Like, then I get like, he does all the sales, he does all the ordering, he does all the billing, he does all the measuring. Yeah. He does the only thing he doesn't do is actual tear out, the labor for tear out and the labor for install. Everything else he does. And I'm like, dude, I don't want, like, that's exhausting. Yeah. And he makes decent money, right? But like the point of it being is I don't want to acquire that. Even if you give it to me for free, I'd be like, no, I'm good, because it's almost so much more. You talk about sales reps coming in, right? It's like, do you want to hire someone that's never been in roofing? Like, I'll show you a screenshot later, but CJ, one of our sales reps, just hit $2 million in revenue this year by himself. And I'm like, dude, like, but he came from GoDaddy. So I don't want to say no sales experience, but like corporate sales experience. I'll give you that much credit, yeah. Right? But 0 roofing experience. Never been on a roof in his life. Wow. Right? And literally within 12 months, calendar year or 12 months of working for us, literally sold $2 million. So the question is, do you want to acquire those bad habits or those lack of processes and systems and whatnot? Or, and if you do take that, by the way, if you do run it the way my uncle and my dad did, you're going to get lowball like a mofo. You're going to get like pennies on the dollar. You're not going to get full max, because somebody has to come in and literally flip the business upside down. So,
but I mean, I think like that's why it's so good that you're doing all this coaching and everything, because you're helping. And I know you said like you don't care and that kind of from that context, but I think you really care about helping these
I don't care about being judged.
Right.
Yeah, like
but
you're an asshole. Cool. Yeah. I don't like high five. I think I'm an asshole too, but I also get people results.
Right. But right? I mean, I see like how much you care about wanting to help them run their business, to help them, to help their families, to help their future, to be able to have something that's a sellable asset and not just something that has to close when they can't put in the work anymore. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's, I think there's a big opportunity there. I think a lot of people miss it. And I think just having like the basics of putting systems and processes in place, having that mission statement, having, those core values defined, and something I'm working on is setting up like, and I'll share this with you later, but like having a creed or like the principles that we run the business by is something that, everybody, I think can be on board with. And a lot of people just don't have that. They're just that technician. They're good at running the job or whatever, and they just miss all that other stuff that you're helping people with. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, but last but not least is a lot of us, we come from the technician place. When you're a technician, who do you report? Who reports to you? Nobody. Yeah. And so that's one of the biggest like 180s. Yeah. When you become a business owner, you now have people reporting to you. Yeah. You are not just reporting to other people. Yeah. And when that truly happens, that's called leadership. Yeah. Right? And so you need to be able to correct that. Hey, that was really great. High five. How are you correcting that in a good way? How are you correcting that in a bad way? How are you fixing it, right? Your boss is fixing stuff in the background that you have no idea about. Yeah. Like, Jason, what do you do podcasts and, speak at events all day? And I'm like, yeah, high five. That's like 2 hours of my day. I'm like, all the back end shit that you see happening, that's me and our managers, team implementing those systems and processes to make it even more fine, even more smooth, to where you can literally be Amazon and swipe
Cool.
and transact.
Yeah.
Literally just swipe. You don't have to input anything. You have to put name, phone number, credit card. You do that one time, and then next time somebody wants to swipe with you, swipe.
Yeah.
Or the auto payments, right? Like, you don't call me every month. Hey, Jason, I need to run your credit card.
Right.
It's on what? It's on an auto. It's on an auto payment, right? Yeah. So, guys, I hope you guys learned something here. We got Matt Dallas here in the office, or in the studio today. Real quick, show them, tell them how they can get a hold of you. Let's say somebody wants to invest with you.
On Instagram, we're at Stroll Agritopia, Stroll Seville, and Stroll
STROLL.
Yep.
Stroll.
Yeah, and you can check out what we're doing on there. It's a private monthly publication, so the publication is not publicly available anywhere. But I brought a couple copies so we can kind of see.
Yeah.
That's Valvista Lakes from this month. This is Agritopia, and we have Seville. And on the back cover of Seville, look at that. In our Seville publication. And
That's the back of Seville, right?
Yeah, and it's written by people in the neighborhood, for people in the neighborhood, and our mission, like I said, to kind of start is make a positive difference in Gilbert through these communities, and we do that by connecting neighbors, introducing businesses, and giving through partnerships and nonprofits.
Love it, guys. Matt Dallas, hit him up, follow him. He's also super into personal development, and he and I are very, very aligned with our core values and where we want to go, both with our spouses, with our kids, and with our businesses. So I just want to bring him on. Not only do we transact together and we're business partners, but also an amazing dude and loves helping people, loves helping the community. And I totally attract to people like that. So Matt, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you, dude.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to the Sexy Business Status Podcast. Don't forget, there is no fee. There are no commercials. There are no ads. I don't charge anything for this. The only thing I ask you to do is to share this with a mom, with a dad, with someone that needs this, with a small business owner. Maybe it's your dad. Maybe it's you, and you go back and listen to it again. Or just post on social media and let somebody else benefit from this conversation. And that's all I ask in return. So we'll see you in the next one.